Hey there, ¿cómo se va and qué pasa? I'm your host, JayBo, and welcome to In the Pocket with JayBo. Today, our episode features a well-known musician and business owner in the greater North Houston area. Along with being a very talented musician, he is also the owner of Nedd's Guitars. I'm talking about today's guest, Mr. Mike Nedd. Mike is married to his beautiful wife, Nicole. He is also a father and a grandfather. He's got some interesting hobbies we'll definitely talk about later. We're honored to have him as our guest today. So with that, welcome to In the Pocket, Big Mike.
Thank you, Jay.
So how are you doing?
Good, man. How you doing today?
Doing fine, thank you. Hey, we really appreciate you being here today. Thank you.
Man, I appreciate you having me on here, man. I really do.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, today's episode is sponsored by Nedd's Guitars.
There you go.
So Mike, as a custom we have here within the Pocket with JayBo, I'd like to ask you a few icebreaker type questions to kind of get the mood flowing here.
Sure.
Is that good with you?
Yeah.
All right. And as the late great Jackie Gleason would say, and away we go.
There you go.
Question number one, and I've had some fun with this, and I've got some interesting answers on this one. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
I can only pick one, huh?
You can only pick one. I'll tell you the most interesting one I've got after you tell me yours, though.
Man, I guess.
Any superpower.
Yeah, man, I really don't know.
Well, that's the point.
Huh?
I said that's the point.
Yeah, man. Superpowers, I guess, really just the ability to stop all and any kind of hate in the world. That's what I would like.
Stop and hate. Man, that's a new one. That's a new one I've got.
Just
nice.
All that, man. Everybody love one another, man.
Get rid of the haters, man. Exactly. I think the most interesting one I've got is the invisible man.
Okay, well, I could have gone somewhere like that, too.
And I said, so why? And this was with the lead singer of the Bayou Junction Band, our band, Jerry Griffin. And Jerry said, so I could hear what everybody's saying.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, so no, you'd be stomp out the hate, man. I like that. That's cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
All right, next one, not as tough. What is your favorite movie?
Favorite movie?
Yes.
Man, there's really a bunch of them, but I'll tell you this. Well, I've seen Step Brothers. I don't know how many times, and I still enjoy watching it. But there's a handful of others, whatnot, in different genre movies and everything.
Right.
That would be one of many. Let's just say that.
I think with my friends and I, we would probably say Caddyshack because of all movies. I think we've either watched that one or Smokey and the Bandit the most,
Yeah. Well, those two, man, for sure.
Okay, another one. This one is going to require you to think probably for a second. So, what do you wish someone would have taught you a long time ago?
Man. I think they were teaching me, and I just wasn't listening.
That's all of us, brother. That's all of us.
Right.
That would be a long and distinguished list if I had to answer that one. I can tell you.
Yeah, because I guess it's like what I knew now back, what I know now back then, when I was growing up. But yeah, I guess maybe the stock market.
There you go. Yep. You'd be a rich man. Play those stocks, son. Get aggressive because it doesn't matter. The corrections will come.
Yeah.
All right, another easy one here. What is one of your favorite vacation spots?
That I've already been to, right?
Yes, well, yeah. It's got to be a favorite, so you've already been to it.
Yeah.
So yes, that you've already been to. What is one of your favorite vacation spots that you've been to?
Man, Jamaica.
Jamaica, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What did you like about it?
Man, just different culture out there. When Nicole and I went, everybody was saying, "Hey, you got to be safe. Stay on the compound and everything." And man, the second to the last day before we left, I ended up doing like an excursion and had them just give us a driver. And so we were in Montego Bay, which is the very, very center of the island. And we drove about 3 hours over to a place called Rick's Cafe. That's where they do all the cliff diving and stuff.
Okay.
And whatnot. And man, the driver that we had, I told him, I said, man, take us to where you get your jerk chicken from and whatnot. When we go somewhere, I like the whole experience from the food, everything and whatnot. So But that was one of them. But we've had some really good places just going in here in Texas too, having some fun. But
Without a doubt, we've been to Jamaica as well, and it's a little more outside of the more commercial type areas that you'll go to as Cozumel and Roatan and that. But I really enjoyed Jamaica. We did the last time we went, which was on a cruise. We did the lazy river kind of thing, but not at a resort. I mean, this was out in the wild, and man, it was fun. It was a blast.
yeah,
Good time with a little Jamaican rum while we're out there too, you know. So hey,
yeah,
you know.
man, that's whenever I was drinking, and I drunk a lot whenever I was there. We were there 7 days, man. So yeah, it was a party.
Nice, nice. All right, last one I'm gonna throw at you. If you could go back in time and have a conversation with an historical figure, who would it be? It could be a family member, a musician, sports, academia, doesn't matter. And they would want to talk to you as well. Because I've gotten a reply saying, "Oh, they wouldn't want to talk to me." It's like, no, they want to talk to you. So if you could go back in time and just have a conversation with a historical figure, someone personal to you, or someone from an influential standpoint, or just the historical intrigueness, who would it be?
Probably my grandfather on my dad's side.
On your dad's side.
Yeah.
Tell me why.
Well, that's where I ended up getting the bug for being, in carpentry and whatnot. That's what he did.
Okay.
And when I was a kid, I used to go out into his wood shop and whatnot and, watch him build stuff, and he'd let me help, doing non-dangerous stuff.
Right.
Yeah. But, the thing is, he passed, before I got into what I'm doing, and, it'd be nice to sit down and talk with him because I never got to build a guitar with him.
Okay.
And whatnot. But that would be one. But again, that's a question that, man, there's a lot of them that I'd like to talk to. Yeah.
No, but that's cool because I know that's a heartfelt one that you said.
Yeah. Because me and my brother, my younger brother, Steve, we both got the bug that he had. For sure. He was a carpenter, and he was also a boxer. So, he exercised and all this and all that. And
cool. Well, that's cool, man. That's good to hear because I think I would definitely pick a family member from the past.
Yeah.
And I wish I had time to prepare because I probably have about 30 questions I'd like to ask as well,
Oh, yeah.
You'll sit around going, man, I wish I could ask so-and-so this question or something like that when you get a family gathering or something, especially as we get older.
Yeah. Well, that's the most important to us whenever we get older is family.
Right on, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So hey, let's transition into. So you grew up in Conroe, Texas, I believe, correct? That's where you grew up. Okay. So tell me about things as a kid. When you were a kid, you were little Mike growing up, and things that what was family life like, and talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, when we moved to Oak Ridge in '72, we were in A-Leaf area in Houston, and then we moved to Oak Ridge in '72. And when we did, like the street that we lived on, we were the first house on that street. Okay. So this was before the Woodlands was there and everything. So there wasn't really any kids my age, but there was a bunch that were my older brother's age. So I hung out with them. That's kind of how I grew up.
How much older is your older brother than you are?
He's about almost 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So probably pretty close to my age. I'm 60. So probably pretty close. Okay. Cool.
Right. So we that's we kind of think that the reason why we're the reason why Oak Ridge has a police department. No,
Nedd boys, right?
We used to ride, we just used to ride dirt bikes and stuff. That's what we did growing up, and a few other things too.
Nice. So what about some other things y'all did when y'all were kids?
Man, really just Legos. When we were itty bitty kids, it was G.I. Joe, Evel Knievel, and Lego.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. I actually have my wife bought me a couple of Evel Knievel the stunt cycles. I've got them in my closet back here.
I used to think Evel Knievel had the coolest outfits, man. I thought he had Elvis, man.
Right.
Ric Flair ended up doing, stuff like that.
Right, for sure, man.
But man, Evil, I remember Evil being on the ABC Wide World of Sports, I think, when we were kids. And he
Yeah,
used to have his jumps, and man, that was must see TV when we were kids,
yeah, for sure, man. I even
Evil
enjoyed some of the
Knievel.
stuff that his son did too.
Robbie, I
Yeah,
think, right?
yeah,
Robbie, yep, that's right. I remember that, man.
yeah.
So that's something else. So when did music actually start in your life? Because I know music is really a big part of your life, your business, and your hobbies. And if everybody can see in the background, they see these kick-ass guitars you got back up there and everything. So when did music really come into your life?
Well, like I said, it really kind of came into my life in, probably around the mid 70s when I could really remember that I was listening to it. I mean, I'm sure I was listening to it from day one, but I'll tell you, there were two things that really sparked me. The first one was this riff from that Black Sabbath song, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath.
Okay.
There was a
Yep.
certain guitar riff in there that was really, really cool to me back then. I was like, wow, man, I want to do that.
Nice.
And then 1978, February 10th, 1978, on my birthday, that's my birthday, Van
Okay.
Halen 1 came out, and my brother bought me the 8-track tape of Van Halen 1. And when I heard that, that was when I knew. I'm like, yeah, man, that's what.
That was it.
And man, for me, even though the Eruption was a big iconic solo, one of the main songs that really did it for me with that band was "I'm the One."
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
it's the last song on side
Yep.
A on that, and
Yeah.
and I always liked that. I always coined them as the hard rock Beach Boys with the harmony vocals and stuff like
Interesting.
that.
Yeah. Interesting. Yep.
Yeah,
Well, they definitely worked the harmonies, that's for sure.
yeah, especially
Michael Anthony, yep, without a doubt.
yeah.
And yeah, good stuff there.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm a big Van Halen.
yeah,
Go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say when I heard that, that's when I started really bugging my mom and dad for a guitar, and it didn't come till a few years later. Christmas of 1981
Okay.
is whenever
Okay.
I finally got one. It's been there ever since.
Electric or acoustic? What did they get you?
Well, actually, my grandma bought me a global acoustic, and I basically, at that point in time, I was just learning the everything on the D and G string, because if I hit both of those chords or both of those strings, it sounded like a chord,
Right.
and whatnot. So I was learning, the smoke on the water and everything, one finger chords. And I think at that time I was probably about, between 8 and 9 years old.
Okay.
And, but that wasn't doing it for me. So I just kind of didn't really mess with it anymore until, like that Christmas of 81 when I got my first electric guitar.
So when you got the guitar, so I know you told me a couple things, but who were some of your influences, major influences, once you did get the guitar? Because then you can have interest change a little bit once that instrument gets in your hand. Because I know that happened to me with the bass. But
Right.
who were some of your major influences with that guitar?
Well, I'll tell you this. I was really looking to do things on the level of Randy Rhoads and Eddie Van Halen,
Right.
but I was self-taught for like the first 3 or 4 years. And
okay.
so I had a record player that I could slightly slow down a little bit from 33. So
Okay.
the two guys that were my saving grace to where I could keep up with them on their solos and learning them was Ted Nugent and Angus Young. So I knew a lot of AC/DC
okay.
and a lot of Ted Nugent. And then as I started taking lessons and everything, then I really kind of started vamping into the Van Halen and stuff like that.
Okay. So was in your mid-teen years, later teen years when that was going on, or?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Do you play any other instruments besides guitar?
Yeah, I've got a couple of ukuleles right here.
I see
but
that.
I also play bass and then vocals as well.
Okay, cool. I know you play guitar, and I know you play damn good. I've seen videos of you playing. I haven't seen you in person, but I will soon. I promise you.
Oh
And
man, I appreciate
big time looking
it.
forward to that. So, with the good stuff, I like hearing about what were maybe some of the challenges you had, or some hurdles you needed to overcome when you were learning things that you wanted to play on guitar. So, talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, the as far as learning stuff on there, I think at first it was just that I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, well, I've got to get this thing to sound like this,
Right.
that was coming out of my speakers. So when I sat down and did take my first lesson, and my first guitar teacher was a guy named Dan Philpott.
Okay.
And he kind of shed some light on me, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's what this is called.
Right.
Now I was like, okay, I know that, but I didn't know what I was doing or why I was doing it. And so
Right.
he helped me out with quite a bit and whatnot. But then, I had both my boys at kind of an early age. So with what I was wanting to do musically there, I had more responsibility of raising them. So
Oh yeah.
I didn't really pursue what I wanted to, and I'm not blaming them, because if I did it all over again, I'd do the same thing,
Right. Right on. Right
and
on.
whatnot. Because honestly, sometimes I think my lucky stars that I never made it in the '80s.
We might not be talking today if you did.
Well, yeah, that or there'd be a lot of footage with us wearing female clothes and stuff.
Right on. Right on.
Yeah,
Well, no, with the kids, I mean that comes no matter what age it comes at, that responsibility comes, and other things get put on the back burner.
right.
And I call them the mood killers, but I do love them. It's
Oh
a
yeah,
term of
yeah,
endearment.
yeah.
So
Well, everything leads up to where I'm at now. So
right, exactly,
yeah,
exactly. It's all part of your journey, you
that's
know.
right.
So talk to me about a little bit about some of the bands that you've been in. Just give me a nutshell about some of the bands you've been in, and then talk to me about your current project that you have going.
Yeah, well, there's been a good handful of back in the '80s and '90s. I was in a band called Stepping Stone, and we did
Stepping
nothing
Stone.
but original music. That's all that we
Nice,
did. And
nice.
I've got a good bit of stuff that we had recorded somewhere. I need to look for it. It's
Now,
but
how old were you? How old were you at that time?
about 21. Now that wasn't my first band. My first
No,
band,
no, no. I'm understanding. Yeah.
yeah, my first band. The first time I played live was at 16, and
Okay.
I honestly don't remember the name of the band. I don't know if we had one or not. And we would play with another buddy of mine that plays out a lot now, Mike Nedd. He was in a
Okay.
band called Stentorian back then,
Centurion.
and
Okay.
they would rent out this jazzercise over by the gym that we work out at, like
Oh
where
wow. Okay.
GNC is and over everything over in there. And so
Yes.
we
Yeah.
ended up
Yeah.
doing a show with them one Friday night, and that was I was 16 when that happened. And then, so I would jam with them a bit, and we did a few shows here and there, but I really didn't start playing out a lot until I was in Stepping Stone. And, like I said, we would do all original stuff. We were hitting that for a while.
Nice.
And yeah. And then in the mid '90s is whenever I really started doing a lot of cover tune stuff,
Okay.
playing in cover bands. So then I was playing all the time then.
Right. Right.
The cover thing, it really got to be to where it was like 4 and 5 nights a week.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so
So did y'all? I guess did y'all mix in some originals when you were playing the when you morphed into more of the cover band playing?
we did we
Okay.
definitely did. The like the last band that I was in, cover band wise, was the Elroys with Jeff Canada.
Okay.
And
I've heard you talk about them before. Okay.
yeah, and Jeff is still going. Jeff does the country thing, singer songwriter stuff. But we had about 5 or 6 originals. And so once every few months, now we would inject them here or there in some of the cover shows, but once
Okay.
every few months we would go play over at either Warehouse Live or Pub Fiction or what have you, and just do an original show, and whatnot. Just, a quick 45 minute to an hour show
Sure.
and stuff like that. So yeah, we did mix in some stuff there. And then the band that I was in beforehand, which was the first cover band I was in, was Euphoria. which the
Okay.
band I'm in now, Bruce, the lead singer, he was the lead singer for that as well. And we ended up doing like a 5-song demo in that band as well.
Oh, cool. Cool.
And some of them might be making an appearance in this band that we're doing now. We've kind of talked about it.
And what's the name of the band, the current project
The
you have,
band
Mike?
now is Euphoria Rain.
Euphoria.
Yeah,
Euphoria Rain.
yeah. Way back when
Okay.
it was called Euphoria, and when I got back with Bruce, he was wanting to use that name, but I said, there's another band it's an Indonesian band that's named Euphoria, and they've got a lot of clout, and it's like,
Oh,
man, if you're
wow.
going to use
Yeah.
the name, you need to put something at the end of it. So
Right, right.
we honestly we kind of went back and forth with a lot of different names, and even just thinking of goofy names, they were all taken.
Yeah, we did a big search on ours too, man. It was crazy.
Yeah, so it was like we were getting to where we were ready to play out and everything. It's like, let's just put something on there and go with it, and whatnot. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. It's kind of, it's really cool listening because I've had mostly musicians on the show so far, and it's just really cool listening to the names of bands that they've been in the past.
Oh yeah,
And that's just cool stuff because who knows where these names come up from, and it's always an interesting story to hear how you
yeah,
come up with the names of the band.
right.
Like you said, we were going to go with Euphoria, but this Indonesian band.
Yeah, well, we were Euphoria back then. My younger brother Steve, he's the one that came up with that name back then. That was 30 years ago.
Right, man, that's something. So let's segue into talking about your family. So how'd you meet your wife Nicole, and how long have y'all been married?
Man, it's kind of a cool one, man. Now, we met on Match.com.
Nice.
We're going on knowing each other for 12 years now. Not yet. We're
Okay.
about 11 and a half right now. But
Okay.
we've been married a year and a half. When we got married last year, January 18th, that's the 10th year anniversary of when we met. We met January
Oh
18th, 10 years
wow,
before that. So
that's cool. That's
she
cool.
was she was with her ex for about 15 years. I was married to mine. I was with her for 20 and married to her for 18. So neither
Okay.
one of us were really in a complete hurry to do anything. But I tell you
Sure.
what, I think we did it right. I mean,
Yeah.
we're definitely joined at the hip. That's for sure.
Well, I know whenever we cross paths, most of the time it's either at your shop or when we're at the gym, and you always have a smile on your face when you're talking about her. So I always notice that type of stuff, and you can please tell her I said that too. And
Yeah.
that's
Absolutely, man.
cool stuff, man.
Yeah, she's my
So
world, man. That's for sure.
without a doubt, yeah, I know the feeling there. So talk to me about your boys, Spencer and Marshall, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, talk to me about them two fellas.
Well, needless to say, they both play guitar. They're really good guitar players. As far as Spencer, he works at a machine shop,
Okay,
and
cool,
then Marshall, he works at the like a HEB distribution center,
nice, nice.
and they're just trucking along, living their lives, you know, getting their bearings.
How old are they, Mike?
36 and 37. Well, they will be 36 and 37.
Oh, close to me.
Spencer will be 36 on excuse me, Spencer will be 37 on the 16th of this month. Then Marshall will be 36 on August 5th.
Okay, cool. So I know you said you had an older brother. Do you have any other siblings, or it's just your older brother?
Yeah,
Or
I've got a younger brother as well. I'm sandwiched in the middle.
you're Peter Brady, right?
Yeah. But all three of us we're right around 4.5 years apart. So my younger
Okay,
brother Steve, yeah, he's about 4 years younger than I am.
okay. Either one of them musicians or both? Or?
Not at all. Not at all. My younger
Okay,
brother Steve, he just retired from sport bike racing.
okay,
Um,
cool.
yeah, a couple of years ago after multiple accidents.
Oh wow, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I
he's
can see
banged
that.
himself up pretty good. But he owns the building that I'm in my business.
Oh, Okay.
He actually built that whole thing and designed it.
Nice.
Yeah, so
Nice.
he designs homes and whatnot. He's his he the barn dominium that he lives in, he designed it too. He's really good at all that stuff, man.
What was that?
He's got a barn dominium that he built.
Barn
And it's
dominium.
yeah, it's a sight to see, man.
I haven't heard that term before. That's a new one.
You haven't?
Toast the barn dominium. I've never heard that before.
Yeah,
Wow.
look him up, man. Check him out. It's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I'm curious.
Yeah, but his is he did a really, usually in barn dominiums they're really rustic and whatnot.
Okay.
But his is a lot. He went pretty much the modern concept, so it's really nice and upscale inside. It looks really nice.
Man, that sounds like something I'd really like too. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
So, talk to me about your parents for a minute or two.
My dad was an attorney, and
Your dad was an attorney.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then my mom, she, at a younger age, when I was a kid, she was doing a lot of art. If you go into her house, there's a bunch of paintings that she had done there. She is very talented at that.
Nice.
So
Are they both still around, or?
my dad, no, he passed away about,
Okay.
man, over 10, about close to 12 years ago. And then my mom's kicking.
Nice.
She's 84 years old, so
I love it.
She's still going.
I love it. Good deal.
Yep.
Good deal. So, let's talk about the being a business owner, because that's the one thing I was mostly intrigued to have a discussion with you about. So, talk to me about how your career started, because I don't think you were directly opening up Nedd's Guitars in the beginning. So,
No.
talk to me how you started out. What did you do in your career? I think you told me you were doing some construction work, and then you ended up going to the music side. So, talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, and I'll tell you, I mean, as far as my employment, it really started. I worked for a plant nursery and managed it for about 7 years.
Okay.
So I did that, got my Texas horticultural license, but then me and my brother ended up going into business, and we were doing a bunch of home refurbishing, and then it rolled into doing decks and everything. We were making really good money at a young age. I mean, a ton of it. But working out in the Texas heat, man, it sucked.
Yeah.
So I was looking in the back of a Guitar Player magazine and saw an advertisement for a school to learn to build and repair guitars, and I was like, and that sounds absolutely like I'm all over that, And when I went to school, that was, man, I think the internet had just maybe came out.
Okay.
And same with like caller ID. Both of those kind of came out the same year, I think the same summer. And so I ended up going out, to school in Georgia, Lilburn, Georgia, and went out and studied school there. The school was 6 days a week. We only got Sundays off, and we were hitting about 10 hours a day and everything out there.
So an actual formal course is what you would take.
Yes. Basically, there was a guitar shop down the street from us called the Fret Shop, and they would order a bunch of factory seconds and ship them to our school, and we would fix all the problems with them, then send it back to them, and they'd sell them. That's what we did.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so we did. That's how he taught us a lot. Everything that he taught us, we were doing it while he was teaching it to us.
Okay.
And whatnot. So it was extensive. And
how long was the course?
8 months.
Wow.
Back then. Yeah.
Woo. Okay.
And then after school, I went and worked with a guy named Greg Curbo as an apprentice for 3 months.
Okay.
And that's where I really, even though I built a guitar at school, that's where I really got a lot of my building knowledge from. Because when, the way that I got with him is my teacher hired him to do a clinic with us at school. And I just got done building one of my guitars. And when I showed it to him, and when he looked at it, he asked me if he could get like 3 months out of me after I left school. And I said, well, yeah, I was planning on, going that way anyway because I wanted to go. I thought I wanted to go work at Gibson, the Gibson factory.
Okay.
So when I left school, I went to Greg's, and when I got there, he said, "Well, we are building a bass for the bass player for Journey, and the reason why I wanted you to come here is because whenever I saw your build at school, it didn't look like a student build; it looked like a professionally built guitar." And he said,
Right.
I kind of wanted to give you something really, really good that you could put on your resume right off the bat. And I tell you what, a lot of that 3 months while I was there, that's where I think I got the majority of my mentoring in doing what I do now.
The school thing, I guess, was more, even though you're doing actual work on guitars that are going to be sold professionally, commercially, you don't really see the customer per se. But with going at this guy's shop, you're actually hands-on working for a customer, participating in building or repairing something for a customer. So that had to be a little different experience as well, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. It was actually pretty scary at first because I didn't know, what to expect. I was just new. I was a kid. I drove all the way to Georgia by myself, and
yeah,
it's a scary situation, but I'm glad I did it.
Well, it was a leap of faith, and one of the big things is that you took a chance, and like you said, like we were saying, it's part of your journey. And there's a lot of people out there that are, they may be sitting on the fence and, man, I don't know if I can do this. I'm not sure if I want to try, but you're never going to find out unless you do try. And, so that you had the, I like to call it the testicular fortitude to go ahead and make that leap and give it a shot is, that's a lot of respect from me just for doing that.
Yeah.
And, so it had to be a great learning experience for you. The guy wanted you there after you completed your coursework at school. So that's a big accomplishment, and you could tell you have a passion for it, and I'm sure you did back then just as much. And for you to accomplish what you did at a young age at that time and not knowing shit, so that's
Yeah, it was. I mean, with doing everything, when I look back on the career, it's close to 30 years now. And, looking back, I was very blessed the whole way because everything opened up. Whenever this door closed, something else better happened. Because when I first got out of school, I was promised a job over at Amar's Music, and I ended up going to work for Greg for a bit beforehand. Well, when I got back to Houston, they had already given it to somebody else. And I thought, well, I really want to build guitars anyway. So I went over to talk to Dave Wentz over at Robin Guitars. Okay. And he wasn't hiring. I think that he was, getting ready to start doing away with the Robin Guitars at that point because he kind of put it to rest for a while. But he's the one that got me in over there at Rock and Robin, and that's where my first repair career was there. Nice. So I cut my teeth on vintage instruments. That's right out of the gate. Nice. Which was another scary situation. But
man, at that age to be able to say that you contributed to working on the bass player for Journey's, his bass, that's right. That's right. That's hardcore, man.
Well, even when we were at school, we were in a suburban area just outside of Atlanta called Lilburn, Georgia.
Okay.
That's where Stone Mountain's in Lilburn. Right. I could almost look at Stone Mountain every morning when I got up.
Nice.
But, just about 30, 40 minutes from us, is where REM was from, Collective Soul. When I was at school, I ended up doing some work on the lead guitar player for Collective Soul. Our teacher was a really good friend of theirs. The band Stuck Mojo did some work for them. And then there was a guy that I did some work for. He was the guitar player, one of the guitar players for Bad Company, and not I can't remember the main guitar player. Was it Mick Rouse or something like that?
Man, I can't remember. And I like that company
Yeah,
too.
but it wasn't him, but it was another guy. And I think it was, I don't think that he wasn't playing with them during the Paul Rogers days. It was
Oh, okay.
with the other singer, and whatnot. But I did some work for him, and then a few other guys there because a lot of those guys went to our school and everything, and that's where they get their stuff repaired at.
Right.
You know, kind of like back in the day when you got your hair cut at a haircutting school, you got it done for cheaper.
Right.
And one side's longer than the other.
Hey, how y'all doing?
No, but so I got to put my hands on a few things, you know. But like I said, with my grandfather having construction under his belt and everything,
that makes sense.
I had a pretty good understanding when I got to school of what I was doing.
Gotcha.
It was really kind of in my blood, I guess. And,
well, you had a hunger and a passion for something, and that was the driving force, that triggered you to make that decision to take that leap of faith.
Right.
And man, and you don't look back, and that's what you did. And so, man, props to you, brother. I commend you on that.
Thank you,
and
man.
now look, you've also worked on the bass player for Bayou Junction's bass. Man, how about that?
Yeah,
man?
absolutely, man. Absolutely.
I'm talking about me.
Oh yeah, I know.
I'm telling the audience that's about me. But that's
Hey there, don't go away. We'll be right back with more of In the Pocket with JayBo right after this message from our sponsor. Nedd Guitars is a custom guitar shop owned and operated by Mike Nedd. Although the shop was launched in March of 2003, Mike has been building and repairing guitars and basses since 1997. Nedd Guitars specializes in handmade custom guitars and basses to fit the style and needs of any artist in all genres. Aside from building guitars, Nedd's Guitars has extensive experience in repairing a wide variety of instrumental defects and mishaps. At Nedd Guitars, they also stock Fender and Gibson replacement parts, as well as several popular aftermarket parts. Along with repairs at the shop, Mike also handles repairs for several stores in and around the greater Houston area. He has done work for Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top, Bad Company, Saliva, Piggy D of the Rob Zombie Band, David Piggott, and Rusty Cooley, just to name a few. You can find all of Nedd Guitars services at neddguitars.com. That's NEDDGUITARS.com.
bottom of the list there. So when did you go into business for yourself, Mike?
Well, when I started going into business with myself, after I was working with Rockin' Robin for a while, I did go over to Mars Music for a bit. I never worked for these music stores. I worked at them. And gotcha. So okay. It was, you basically paid a percentage of what you made towards the room that you were renting from them. And sure. When I was there, Mars ended up going under. And one of the guys that I was at school with when I, back in Georgia, he was from Naples, Florida. And that's where Mars originated from, was in Florida. And, okay. He was the one that told me, hey, man, you guys are fixing to go under, And so I ended up starting to do it out of my house for a little bit, but I didn't like it. So I had a job offer a couple of years before from a guy named Steve Wark. Okay. Which was the owner of All Parts. So I went ahead and took about a 2-year hiatus during the week. I still repaired on the weekends, but I worked for All Parts Monday through Friday for right at 2 years. And then my brother had some of the building he was renting out. He said, hey, man, I'm not even using but a third of it. If you want to do a shop in here. And that's what happened, man. I did that over on Hannah Road, and we built that whole building out, and that's where I got my start when I was on my own. I've been doing this totally, since school and whatnot for almost 29 years, but that's when I really, really went out completely on my own building and everything. And then, it grew. I started working a lot with Rusty Cooley back then at the old shop. So he got me in with Nedd Guitars, and I did all of Rusty Cooley's models, the 7 and 8 string, multi-scale and extended scale guitars. Those were all done at my shop. And then I also did Michael Badio, the double-handed guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I didn't build that guitar, but I built his Armored Flames for Nedd Guitars.
Woo.
And whatnot. So there was a good handful of artists that I would build for with them. And, lo and behold, a few years later, Rusty and I started doing a TV show together called Guitar Asylum TV. And
I didn't know that. Nice.
Now it didn't stay on for long. I don't even think it finished one season of it, because we were on it at midnight on Saturday night on on a cable, whatever, one of those spare off the wall channels.
Right.
It ended up turning it, like every good radio station. It turned it into some kind of Tejano station.
Right.
So they took and I think then they put it on the air somewhere in Florida for a bit. But Rusty would do interviews with guitar players, and there were some really big ones on the show, and whatnot. And then I did some how-to videos, guitar maintenance and stuff like that on there. And that kicked off a lot of business too, so
nice.
I tell you, I absolutely was in the face of all the right people to grow where I needed to grow. Cause even some of the people that I met, I'm sure same thing happened with them. I tell you, I always say this, that I'm very blessed to be able to know why I was put here on earth, because I know this is it. With the way that God put everything into my path and everything, there's no doubt in my mind. Now, sometimes, yes, it can be a headache. Anything that you do for a living, it is what it is. But man, I tell you what, I have met some of the most amazing people doing what I do, whether people that have helped me get from A to B, client, sure, and whatnot. It's really been, my family got a lot bigger whenever I started doing my own business.
Right.
That's just
probably the nicest thing you can say about what you do as well too.
Yeah.
So, but I have to ask you about one person, because when I first went into your shop, I noticed it, and it was a guy that my buddies and I used to kind of follow a little bit, because we used to get the Muscle and Fitness magazines. But Lee, and excuse me if I say his last name, Lee Labrada, right?
Yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
Big
that's
Lee.
right.
Man, when I first walked into your shop and I saw it, I'm like, how the hell does Mike know Lee Labrada? He told me about it. I'm like, that's pretty cool stuff right there. And then we ended up having about a half-hour conversation about the old bodybuilding guys back in the 80s and everything.
Right. Well, I'll tell you this. The way that I met Lee is Lee started taking guitar lessons from Rusty.
Okay.
And I remember I remember Rusty calling me up saying, "Hey man, you're not going to believe who I just talked to." And so we became really, really good friends. Lee and I have been, great friends ever since. And as a matter of fact, so I'm 55, so he is 65.
Because I know he's a little older than I am, right?
He's 10 years and 1 month older. My birthday's in February. His is in January. And the reason why I know this is because his wife, Robin, hired my band back then, Vertigo, to play his 50th birthday party.
Nice.
Yeah. So we did that. And I tell you what, it was kind of cool, because Robin, she had me come over and I would jam with Lee for a little bit, and we were working on some songs and everything, and he didn't know it, but we had Hunter, his oldest son, bring up his guitar gear, and we set it up. So when it was a surprise party for him, when he came in, he goes, "Oh man, Mike, you guys are playing my party." And I said, "Yeah, man, well, so are you." So, and then, what's cool is since then, he's done a lot of things musically, man. He has his band called Labrada, and he's actually done the guy that plays bass with him in there is Paul Pesco. Paul Pesco was the original guitar player for Madonna, and he was the lead guitar player for Hall & Oates forever, man.
Oh, wow.
And
wow.
whatnot. And he's got
Hardcore,
tons of album
man.
credits, like with Whitney Houston. I mean, a bunch of them. Trust me, if you've got 2 ears on your head, you've heard this man play guitar.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
And whatnot. But they also did a video with Corey Glover singing for him, and that's the singer for Living Color. You know, the Cult of Personality band.
Yep.
Yeah, they did some music with him too, man.
I'll be darned. How about that, man? It's just it stretches and stretches and stretches. And just for our audience, Lee Labrada was a champion bodybuilder back in the 80s mostly.
He was 89, 88, 89 and 90, I think, was his two biggest years.
Yeah. And man, just an amazing bodybuilder back then. And he has his own protein shakes and drinks line, and I'll get them every now and then. So
yeah,
that's stuff, who we're talking about right here, just in case anybody wasn't familiar with Lee Labrada's name. So let's talk about Nedd's Guitars. Okay.
Yeah.
So how long have you had Nedd's Guitars, and have you always been at that location?
No, this is my second location that I'm at now. I had one on Hannah Road, which is just, you could walk there from my location now. And I can't remember exactly how many years I was there. It's like, oh man, I guess about 16, 17 years there. Okay. And then where I'm at now, April 1st of this year was 9 years that I've been there. We opened up 9 years ago on April 1st, right whenever the tax day flood happened.
Okay.
Back then, 9 years ago, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And you know, I mean, it was again, another scary situation. You know, having to, you know, moving period, you know, I mean, the most stressful situations you're ever going to go in is divorce, death, and moving.
Yeah.
You know,
at least death, you don't have to worry about it long, you know.
Right. Well, that's if you're doing it.
Right, exactly. Good point.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, you know, going into getting new digs and everything, and having to build it out and whatnot. You know, finances adjusted.
Yeah.
You know, and whatnot. So. But at the same time, too, man, you know, you always got to jump in with both feet. And luckily, I landed on both of them.
Well, it's, you know, you definitely prepared yourself, and you mitigated your risk by, you know, educating yourself and, you know, getting an old term one of my bandmates, Astro Joe, loves to use is you got your hands dirty and you got in there and you knuckled up and you got at it, you know. So you mitigated your risk that way. And I'm sure, you know, you attacked it not just with your heart, but with your head as well, because a lot of people that go into a business or things like that, they'll go in with their heart and they're going to have everything but a customer. So you went in both ways, obviously, because I know a lot of people that talk really good about you, and I recommend you to every musician that I meet. And man, one thing I got to tell you is that I've only been a musician for about 4 or 5 years now, but man, that is some finicky people out there, man. You know?
It can be, man. It can be, you know.
So yeah, God bless you with that. You know. So what are you most proud of with Nedd's Guitars, with your business?
Well, I tell you one thing that I'm proud of is, you know, I have a lot of people that trust me.
Yeah.
And
for sure,
when I talk with them on the phone, I mean, and I tell you this, some of the toughest nuts to crack are older guys. I mean, guys like 70 and 80, but I've been told by a lot of them that, you know, they're like, man, you're just an old soul. You know, I actually think I can carry on a better conversation with somebody that way than I can my own age.
Right.
I think for the most part, because I'm really a sponge when I'm talking to them, because I like to hear their story.
Well, that's why I do what I'm doing here. I love listening to people's stories, and you and I hit it off from the get-go. But
yeah,
that's got to be something you're really proud of, that you're able to build your client base just by the relationships that you're forming with them when they come to you, right?
Yes, that's right. Because I tell you, when you're in business for yourself, it doesn't matter what kind of business it is. When somebody new comes in there, you're on a job interview every time.
Right. That's exactly right.
Because for one, they don't know you from Adam. They're getting ready to leave something there that they spent. Some of them haven't spent that much money on it, and some of them have spent way more money than I would spend on a guitar.
Right.
So for them to trust me with that and everything, I appreciate every bit of that. I'm blessed to be able to say that, I've got a lot of people that allow me to do that, and I'm very, very, very grateful for it.
They do put a lot of trust in you to have that instrument ready for when they're performing. And the last thing they want to have, and you know this, Mike, is an issue while they're playing. And
Right.
for people to be able to trust you with that, man, that's a big thing. And I know you take it, I can tell by the work that you've done, for me and a couple of my bandmates as well, is that you take your work very seriously and you're utmost professional when it comes to that. And to me, you go above and beyond. And those are the types of little things that you do that help you grow, maintain, and keep your business going. So again, big props to you and a lot of respect I have for you, as far as that's concerned. So
Man, I appreciate it.
absolutely. So, and well deserved. So talk to me about what are some of the major challenges you may have had to overcome with being in the private sector and being a small business owner. What are some of the big, challenges that you've had to overcome with that?
Well,
besides you work about 22 hours a day sometimes.
Yeah, man, it's a lot of hours, man, because I've got to do the work and run the business as well. So there's got to be time for both, and try and fit some time for family and a little bit of guitar time in there too. But and that's one of my challenges is just trying to fit everything in. Because
Right.
when you own a business, you have to spend more time at it than if you don't own it.
Right.
Because you have to do the work and then run it as well. So that's one of the challenges. And then obviously another big challenge that I think was one of all of our biggest challenges that's living today was, when COVID happened.
Yeah.
When that happened, I was in business for 23 and a half years. And, we only closed, since we were in Montgomery County, we only closed the month of April that year. But man, through that month, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if I was going to have to shut the business down or what.
Right.
Didn't know what was going to happen. Well, that didn't happen. The opposite did.
Yes.
When we opened back up May 1st that year, the amount of clientele that I accumulated in 23 and a half years literally doubled overnight.
Nice.
And
That's a blessing.
it was a blessing, but it was a humongous hurdle too. Because just two guys.
Who's gonna do the work?
Yeah, you can't. It's hard to weather through all that. So it's
Sure.
like it was a lot of work coming in, but I was grateful that it was.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, being a business owner, that cash register needs to ring up. That cha-ching sound needs to go off a little bit too.
That's right.
But
That's right, man. That's right.
Ultimately, a lot of responsibility. As I think my father, I told you, was a small business owner as well, and
Yeah.
for the offshore and onshore service business. Man, just a lot of hours, man, a lot of hours, and dealing with offshore personnel. And my father would get home late, he'd just lay on the couch, eat dinner, lay on the couch, read a book, and he was out of the house before we were going to school most of the time the next morning. I worked with him for a while in my later teen years, and I really got to see firsthand what was involved in a lot of things. And again, that's one of those things when you're younger, I wish I would have paid a little bit more attention to some things.
Right.
But you reminisce about it now, and it's like, it can be a tough challenge, especially balancing a family, with kids and everything else. And you need to draw the lines and have boundaries sometimes, and that can be a challenge. So I know you've dealt with all these things that I'm talking about right now.
Yeah.
And so give me an example of what is one of the most fulfilling experiences that you've had as a business owner.
Well, that's an easy one.
Okay.
A lot of the stuff that I was building for Nedd Guitars was being seen by everybody all around the globe.
Nice.
So, I'll tell you this. when I did the 7 strings first for Rusty, and then I ended up doing 2 8 strings.
Okay.
And I've got some pictures of them where Dean had them hanging in his booth. Well, when I got there, I wanted to take I wanted to take some pictures of it. And the guy that was with the band Fear Factory, Dino, the kind of
Okay.
Mexican guy. I don't listen to him, but I know of him and whatnot. But I he was there. And what's funny is I was a ghost builder, so I really wasn't. I can say it now, but I really wasn't supposed to say anything about who built it or what have you. So I could sit there and listen to what people actually think about what I did. And he was there, and he said, "Man," he said, "I just picked this thing up and played it." He said, "This is the whole reason why I came to NAMM this year, is to check out this guitar." So, that was something that it was like that was a major proud moment,
Almost sounds like that Invisible Man superpower, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So yeah, there you go.
So Mike, big props on what you do as a business owner, and I've been over your shop many times and just amazed what you do. And I have to make myself leave because I know you have work to do. So JayBo, get your behind out of here. Let Mike get to work, man. But so with all this busyness and all this, time you spend with the shop and your family and things like that. So what are some of the things that you like doing to unwind? And I think music's probably a part of that too. So talk to me about that. Like, what are the hobbies, the things that you use to get away from the business and the trials and tribulations you go through every day? What do you do to relax?
Man, really, obviously, there's guitar playing is involved. When I get a chance to work on some music and whatnot.
That's like a therapy almost to me,
It is.
Yeah.
And but man, I like to work out in the yard and man, really just spend time with my wife. We don't.
I think you told me you like. I'm sorry. I think you told me you like gardening, don't you?
Yeah.
So was this green thumb from way back in the day when you told me you
It
were?
was, yeah, for sure. I didn't, when I went to guitar building school, I had in this hand, I had either doing, being a landscaping architect or doing the guitar stuff, and I kind of thought, man, doing the guitar stuff will help me stay out of the Texas heat.
Good point there. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I went and whatnot. And I'm glad I did. It's been a blessing all the way, man.
Did your family have a garden in the yard or the backyard when you were growing up or something like that?
My mom's awesome with plants.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was into that. Her and my stepdad, they built a house out in Magnolia area, and man, they've got a beautiful yard.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. We had a garden in our backyard. We had tomato plants, of course. My mother had you heard of melitons before?
Heard of what?
Melitons?
No.
Yeah, they're a big vegetable. And my mother had a melon vine, and melitons, I don't know. It just depends on what area of the country you're from as to how you pronounce it. I didn't care for these things that much. I don't know why, but my mother's, it's a vine that they grow on the fence. And man, these things were about this big. And she actually ended up in the local newspaper with a little blue tub. She went down to the newspaper office with a tub of these melitons and took a picture. They put her picture in the paper with the melitons. They called it Mighty Melitons. I still got this picture to this date because she was so proud of that. My mother passed away about, I want to say 17 years ago. But man, she was so proud of that. But the garden thing, and we used to just go pick the tomatoes and all when they were ready and stuff like that, but it was Creole tomatoes, which over in New Orleans where I grew up that was a cool thing there,
Yeah.
But you also liked cooking from what I understand.
Yeah, I like to cook. My wife is, I'd been a bachelor for a handful of years, way back when. So I knew a good bit of cooking, but my wife has really taught me quite a bit. So we do the meal prep thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yep.
But down home meal prepping.
Yeah.
So what are some of the dishes that you like to cook?
Man, it's really kind of just about anything. I mean, I obviously love to grill, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
and I usually go on Pinterest and find some things so we're not eating too much. That I'll get on my kick for a little bit. Lately, I've been doing these protein bowls.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, so
I've got things where
doing
everything I like, because I'm a leftovers king. I love eating leftovers, and
oh
I'll just
yeah,
throw everything in the
it
damn
tastes
bowl
better.
and mix it up. Yep, I'll throw everything in a bowl and mix it up, man, and that's good. I'm good to go, man. I'm as simple as it gets with stuff like that.
Yeah,
And my wife is Hispanic, but so she cooks, and we're from, grew up in New Orleans, so she cooks all the New Orleans stuff good, and she cooks the Mexican food stuff good. So I really got to be careful.
yeah.
And she's all a 5'3", like 115. So it's like you don't need to cook that much.
Oh yeah.
That's why you see me at the gym and I'm sweating so much, because I love eating like a big Terry over at the gym, man. We can talk about food all day long, man.
Yeah, for sure.
So, man, I appreciate you being here today, Mike. Is there anything we missed that you wanted to bring up at all, or?
No, man, I think we covered quite a bit. If you ever want to
Well,
have me back, man, just let me know.
oh, I'd love to. I'd love to. Maybe you talk to Lee Labrada. He can come be a guest, and you can guest. You could be a guest co-host with me. How about that?
There you go. That'd be cool.
You talk to him. We'll make it happen, man. No, I'd love to have you back in the future. And again, man, I really appreciate you sharing your journey today on, how you became a small business owner and how you took that leap of faith after something that you had a passion for. Because a lot of people, won't do that because, I mean, it's a scary thing to do. And life happens, and it's a little easier to do it while you're younger before things in life take over, kids and obligations and
Yeah.
responsibilities and all that. But the fact that you were able to do it, to me, is extremely admirable. I had let a few things guide some decisions I made when I was younger and ended up going some routes I really didn't. My heart wasn't in it. I had to have my head into it, because if you're going to be successful with it, you have to have your head into it a little bit.
Yeah.
But my heart just wasn't into it. And now I'm doing things that they're hobbies now, that, like playing bass and being in a band and doing the podcast. And I think you're like me. We're cut of the same cloth in that we like to talk to people and we're intrigued by things. And that's how you and I met, just talking.
Yeah.
And so just really cool stuff, man. So I really appreciate you sharing your journey with us today and everything. So again, I just want to tell you, thank you, brother, for being a guest on my podcast today. And this was fantastic. I learned a lot about you, and I can't wait for our audience to hear a lot about this. I really appreciate you spending some time and your experience with us. And so I just want to pass this message along, to everybody. Don't forget, please subscribe or follow, pending which venue you're watching us on. You can listen to the podcast, be it on Facebook or on my YouTube channel or Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It's always entertaining. And as a good friend of mine once said, if it's free, it's me. It is free. And with that, again, Mike, thank you very much, brother. I really appreciate it. You've
Man,
been
thank you so
awesome.
much for having me, man. I appreciate you.
Okay. And with that, we'll see you on the flip side for another episode of In the Pocket with JayBo. All right.